What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Schreckbein, joined always by my main man, Jacob Punturi. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk or subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers training camp is just about over, but the drama continues and it is getting louder. Cam Heyward spoke to us for the first time since the hold-in started today and did not hold back on what things can happen, where things can go, and how he may, if needed, not be a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers in week one for their active roster. We'll dive into that, plus what we saw today, including some concerning injury news and some positive injury news, one for each side of the cornerback position, and who won the day, plus much, much more. Shout out to our members. Shout out to our super chatters. As always, can't thank you guys enough. If you want to become a member, hit the link in the description below. Jacob, it was the nastiest day of camp ever. It was the most humid, disgusting, awful day weather-wise of camp all year long. But let me tell you, I'm counting down the days, and every day you get a little bit sadder knowing that you got to leave this place and you don't get to come back for 365 days. So with that said, how you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling a little sad, I think is the right word for it. I mean, listen, this is my last day up at camp. You get to come back up here tomorrow, so you get to have a little bit more fun with the gang. But, you know, this was it for me, and we've had a fun time. I'm feeling good. I'm finally stopping the sweat pouring down my forehead. Maybe you guys can already tell. Maybe you can't. Not sure. But, you know, we're just making our way through, cooling down gently while we talk about what was a pretty maybe boring on the field, but still very exciting day for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I agree. How bad's the echo? Because some people are saying in the chat that we got a little bit of an echo going on. If we do, I'll take a move. It's no big deal. But we talk about the drama of the Pittsburgh Steelers as we make a move. I think everybody has seen the inside of this conference room more than needed during this training camp process, but it's all right. We're going back to good old reliable here. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, the echo's gone now. There it is. All it takes is a move. All it takes is a move. You look at what's happening off the field, and a team that is all in, that Mike Tomlin has classified as a team that he built this offseason with the winning mentality. That's the biggest word he has used, is I wanted a bunch of winners. Well, he got them, and then the piece that he did not expect to become an issue has, become an issue. Cam Heyward talked to us today. It's the biggest news surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers. What's going to happen there? Is he going to play in 2026 or 2025? What's going on? Do you pay him? Do you not pay him? What happens if you don't pay him? Well, he touched on a lot of it. We'll listen to him first, then we'll dive into it. For those of you who have not seen this yet, this is what Cam had to say today here at St. Vincent College.
You know, my goal is to be out here, and I don't know what's going to happen. I think I've had to be honest with myself to be ready for every option. Has it gone the way I wanted to go? No. If it did, I would be out there playing and practicing. But I'd like to put this in the rear view mirror and worry about fall and worry about New York Jets week one.
Cam, is this something you're willing to miss games over, possibly?
I think there are definitely options out there that could reflect that.
Are there negotiations going on now?
There's been talks. I had a talk with Omar today, and I've talked to Mr. Rooney. I've talked to Mike T, Omar. There's never a level of respect there. I respect this organization, what they've done. I just want to continue to keep playing at a high level here.
You hear Cam, okay, and he talks about the possibility of him sitting out. How much do you look at this and say that Cam is speaking a truth? Cam is saying, things might really hit a tipping point. And how much do you look at this and say Cam is playing negotiations? Cam is sitting here and going, this is TJ Watt's deuces pick. I just got to say what needs to be said so that I get paid and everything turns out okay.
This feels like negotiations to me. it's hard for me to see it any other way. I mean, we watched TJ Watt do it and it worked effectively. We watched countless other players over the offseason, not within the Steelers organization, come through. And then they've used this to their advantage to get the contracts that they've ultimately wanted and earned. I think this is a lot of a ploy, if you will, from Cam Heyward and his camp. He clearly wants to restructure. We can have a discussion about whether he deserves that or not, or whether he makes enough money for the production he brings, etc. But I don't see Cam Heyward as a legitimate candidate to leave the Steelers. I don't think that he is going to play anywhere else but with the Pittsburgh Steelers organization. And I think maybe I've just gotten too comfortable to seeing the negotiations become very dramatic without any real substance behind it. But it feels like this might be one of those situations again where Cam might say everything he has to say, and it might go past where we thought he might say certain things. But it feels like this is all in an effort to get the money that he clearly feels he deserves and has not been given.
I agree. I don't look at this right now. I think it could get that dramatic. Okay. I do think that Cam at some point could say, guys, I'm not playing. Like, I'm not playing for the 22nd highest contract at my position when I'm clearly not the 22nd best player at my position. I think that we could hit that point. Okay. I don't expect it to happen, but we could hit that point. But I agree with you. I think this is another tactic in a very dramatic NFL where everything is just negotiations have become dramatized, that if you have a contract situation, you are going to do everything you possibly can to the public because that's capable. You are capable of bringing all of this to the public eye and making it significantly worse than what it would be in-house between I'm pissed off at Omar Khan and my agent is hardballing them and the Steelers are hardballing us, and it's just not fun. This is the player's opportunity is to say, I could make this thing so much bigger than it is in-house because I have that capability. I have that output to reach the fan base on a pretty extreme level. I don't expect this to go into week one, but I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, he just said it himself that you can't rule it out, and that's a real possibility. In worst case scenario, Cam is not a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is there any part of you that thinks that this thing could actually get there and that Cam and this could get that crazy where this ship could sink before they take off to New York September 8th or something like that?
You have to consider the possibility. I think it would be maybe writing it off too quickly, writing off Cam Heyward's concerns too quickly, not giving enough thought into them. If we were to just say there's 0% chance that he moves, there's 0% chance this doesn't get done and resolved in some sort of way. Again, I maintain that Cam Heyward is a one helmet kind of player. I think I think we've certainly seen that their negotiation tactics and what both sides are willing to do has certainly shifted drastically in the last 5 to 10 years. But yeah, so that all being said, I think he is going to remain a Pittsburgh Steelers. I'd give it about a 3.5% chance that it goes any other way than this contract situation being resolved and him playing a prominent role once again in his age 36 season for the Steelers. But there has to be some chance. We have to leave the door slightly open for this to go terribly wrong. So many things have gone right for the Pittsburgh Steelers when they could have gone terribly in the other direction so far this offseason. It feels like if there was ever a time for the other shoe to drop, it could be, this might be one negotiation too many for the Steelers. This might be one contract, one price that they simply can't pay right now. And what if that is the situation we're in right now with Cam Heyward? I think you have to consider it, but I don't think it's the likeliest outcome.
How comfortable are you in Derek Harmon and Keanu Benton and Y.E. Black and Isaiah Loudermilk being those guys? How far down, in all respect to Cam? That's what this question is based off of, is respect to Cam and what he's done as an NFL player. What do you, how significant is the drop if Cam is not on the field week one?
It's significant, and I think it's more significant than we want to give credit for right now. It would be easier to maybe write that off based off of how exciting Derek Harmon's looked based off of how impressive YA Black has looked throughout training camp. And to be quite honest, I don't think the drop off is going from all pro to reserve or something like that. It's not that dramatic, but a good camp from two rookies is not the same thing as an all pro, multiple time pro bowler, and a man who's coming off of 11 passes deflected at the line of scrimmage and 8 sacks as a 35-year-old. Derek Harmon might be the next guy in line. He might be the next anchor of the defensive line, but that has not been shown on an NFL field up until this point. So the drop off would, I think, be considerate, and I think to say anything else would be very disrespectful of what Cam Heyward brings, what he's done in his career. But that is strictly about Cam Heyward and how good of a career he's had, not a statement on any lack of confidence in Derek Harmon or YA Black or even Isaiah Loudermilk, who has looked a little bit better each week here in training camp. So they have depth, that there's no question about that. But Cam Heyward is, he's the top of his position. And I think not having him on the field would only hurt this defense.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I think everybody else should agree. Whether you are sitting here saying Cam's got to go, get rid of him, he's a cancer, or you're sitting here saying pay him. Your mindset should be the same. The Steelers' defense is not the same without Cam Heyward in it, and you want Cam Heyward on this defense. You want to figure it out. I'm very confident that they're going to, but at the same time, like, we are hitting a place where you're going, this is a real one. This is much more real. Someone might have died at the Fred Rogers Center here, but this is more real than it's been, And look, I'll say this in defense to Cam as well. Cam being told last year that he needs to take a pay cut and then having to rework that contract to take a pay cut. Ridiculous. I understand that he was coming off of an injury, but Cam Heyward is still a fantastic football player, and you don't ask him to take a pay cut. You finish off his career strong, and if you did that, you're not in this spot. You're in a weird situation and a much better situation where maybe he's asking for more money, but it's probably not as significant as it is right now. But I agree with you. I think that he's a Steeler in 2025. And we don't even know what Derek Harmon and YE Black do come week 1. We have no idea. Mm-hmm. And until we do, I don't know. I think Cam is the safest bet you could have as a Pittsburgh Steelers. You got any closing thoughts before we move on to something else?
I think, Cam Heyward, the last thing I want to see is a sort of demonizing of Cam Heyward in this whole entire process. We can have conversations till we're blue in the face about how much money is Cam Heyward worth at this age, at this point of his career. But the thing that stands out to me most is he has been a player who has sacrificed financial gain a lot in his career. He really was not asking for huge money until this last contract negotiation. And so, I just think we have to take that into consideration a bunch here. He's been a leader and a valued one for a reason. And I think the way the Steelers can devalue aging veterans in their final contracts is just something that I don't think applies to Cam Heyward. So I just hope that's not the road we go down.
I think it's hilarious that you can make a statement that is true, that is factually true, that Cam Heyward took a financial dip, sacrifice for the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise. And at the same time, it be factual that he made $131 million. 131 million. Both of those things are true statements. And it's again, I think it's going to work itself out. When, how much, we'll have to wait and kind of figure that one out. All right, let's talk training camp today. Let's turn our focus to there. I got some injury news, good and bad. The bad is Darius Slay went down with an ankle injury today. Looked like he rolled it. Not sure how long he's going to miss time. Would imagine that it takes a couple of days before Darius Slay is back on the field. And I didn't expect him to play in the preseason at all. So I am not super worried about it. On the other side of that, Jalen Ramsey is set to return tomorrow from an injury that was undisclosed that, we talked about a couple of times on this show, but you didn't really know what was going on with Jalen Ramsey. We still don't know what's going on with Jalen Ramsey. And then Calvin Austin, still no idea what's going on with Calvin Austin. We'll find out at some point. But for right now, Calvin is a sideline guy, and the Steelers are considering him day-to-day with who knows. Sorry, had to let that one out, but I hit the mute button. Did you see the mute button on that? Did you see that? Quick, fast. Fast. I'm just saying. Calvin Austin's got an undisclosed injury. We don't know how long it's going to be. Do you have concerns about Calvin Austin? We'll start there because I think he's the biggest name that we just don't know about. What's your out? Like, do you see him playing in the preseason? Are you worried that this thing's more serious than Mike Tomlin wants to let on?
Yes. To your second question, absolutely. This with Jalen Ramsey, at least with his comments today, Tomlin's comments after practice today, he was very optimistic that he's going to participate, I think, tomorrow. And when they have their joint practice against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he also expects Jalen Ramsey to be a participant. He was very wishy-washy, and he has been very wishy-washy when it comes to Calvin Austin. And it seems like there's a very tight lid on whatever is going on, and that's what concerns me. It'll be one thing if it's just, oh, he's got X injury. We're being cautious. We don't want to aggravate it in training camp or in preseason games or something like that. I think we all would be like, okay, that makes sense. We would be a little disappointed because we want to see what Calvin Austin III does with an expanded role and if he is truly ready to take on that next step in the regular season. But we would all understand if he had some sort of lingering injury that was more important to take care of than to force him to play. We can't even be sure of that right now. We know that there's something going on. We know that there is something keeping him off the field, an injury hampering him, whatever the case may be. But to have so little insight into it and to not really have any idea of the severity, timeline, where he's at with the progress, if he's going to participate in anything, it's concerning. I would love to have some more information, a little bit more of an inkling into how severe this is. And, I don't think we're going to get it, if I'm being perfectly honest, and we're just going to have to wait and see. But yeah, I want to see Calvin Austin play. I want him to prove on the field in a similar way that we talked about Roman Wilson taking a nice step in that first preseason game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I want to see that concrete, tangible step from Calvin Austin III as well. And I think we're just probably not going to see it in this preseason.
Let me ask this question, okay? Is there any part of you, and I don't feel there is. I don't feel, let me start off with this disclaimer. I do not think this is the case, but I will ask you your opinion. Do you think there's any part of you that says Calvin Austin's looking for a new deal and he is holding number 3?
Man, what a question. I have to say no. I have to say no, because what is Cam Heyward? I get it. TJ Watt, I understood completely. I was in favor of doing whatever means necessary. Calvin Austin coming off of 500 and I believe 46 yards receiving last year, without that big productive season, without that big breakout, I'm struggling to see what leverage he has and what ground he has to stand on to even demand a new contract and to be that dramatic or extreme or to hold in or something like that. I think he wants a new deal. I think the Steelers want him on a new deal as well. I think if there's been any conversations, they have to be very far off, because Calvin Austin would understandably be wanting some security, a nice significant raise. And I think the Steelers would want to sign him to a longer term deal that was more financially beneficial for the Steelers, which I get. I don't think he's holding in, but man, I'm kind of for the juiciness and the dramatic tension just continuing to rise. It's just been a whole summer of contract negotiations. Let's add one more crazy one to the mix.
Dude, if the Pittsburgh Steelers revealed that Calvin Austin was also, which they wouldn't, it would be Schefter or something crazy, was like, Calvin Austin's not injured. I just got a notification. I was like, oh, is that what it was? Is that? No, it's the unofficial depth chart for the Cleveland Browns, just in case anybody's curious where Shadur Sanders or Kenny Pickett stands.
He's fourth on the depth chart.
That's he's fourth. Where's Kenny Pickett? What's Kenny Pickett?
2.
It's because he's a stud. Because he's a shit stud. I think it would be absolutely insane for the Pittsburgh Steelers to have another contract negotiation. I also think that Calvin Austin's best opportunity to make money is after this year. You know what I mean? Calvin Austin has 2 outcomes after the season. One, he re-signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers and gets paid a pretty decent amount of money, feels good as a wide receiver 2, everything's fine. Has a good year, great. 2, he hits free agency, signs a 2-year, $10 million a year contract somewhere and goes to a place like LA, like San Francisco, like Miami, somewhere where he goes immediately, I'm going to make more money because I'm going to be really good in this offense. That doesn't make sense right now. Maybe he's looking for security. I get that, but it just wouldn't. It would be very dramatic. And to be honest with you, if I'm Calvin Austin, that's the situation. I'd be so pissed at Cam and Boz. I'd be like, guys, are you kidding me, dude? Like, are you kidding me? The one time that I asked for more money and you guys are out here taking the money, are you really serious right now? Because he's not getting paid. Cam and Boz are getting paid, and he'd just be shoved to the side. I don't think it's that one. There's another conspiracy theory here because I do got to give Ed D his moment here. What if he's been traded and knows it? First off, he wouldn't have been traded already. That wouldn't have been the case. But what if the Pittsburgh Steelers are saying we are actively trying to shop you, and that's what's happening here? This again, I don't think this is the case, but I want to give you the floor with it. I will make it very strong. I don't think it's the case.
I don't like to speak absolutely, but I know that's not the case, because if they were protecting their asset, that would be like having fool's gold under lock and key when you're trying to sell it for gold. Does that make sense? Like, if they want to move Calvin Austin, they don't have to protect him like the cash cow that, sitting out for a week would do. He's been out for 10 days. If they've been actively shopping him for almost 2 weeks now, I fail to see what value or what logistically him sitting for 10 days straight would do. I think this is just like a weird injury situation, or there's who knows? Who knows? This feels like we're in the twilight zone is what it feels like at this point, because I just don't know. But I feel very confident they're not shopping him, and they're not trying to make sure he stays healthy in order to facilitate a deal. Love the thoughts. Let's get crazy. Let's get loco. But I think the Steelers really want Calvin Austin on their team, or they would just cut him. Like, there's no trade out there in the works in my mind.
No, I mean, maybe like I could see him being traded. I'm not going to rule that possibility out if the Steelers are like, oh, Terry McLaurin for Calvin Austin in a third. Here you go. You know what I mean? Like, the Steelers are going to be like, no, we're not doing that. But at the same time, I don't think that's the case right now. Like, I don't think he's missing a week's worth of practice because he's sitting there going, this team's going, look at dude, it's a slow roll. All right. Long negotiations. Who knows what's going to come out of this? And when it doesn't work out, you're going to have to just go back in and act like everything's fine. You know what I mean? That would be awful. So no, I don't think that's the case. All right, let's go. Cam Heyward. We went Calvin Austin. Let's talk winners and losers of the day here. Second last training camp practice. Absolutely wild. Absolutely. It's been a fun time. This was your last day up here. Excited for it. We'll start with the winners of the day, as we do. Who's your winner of the day? Winners, whatever you got.
Right off the bat, let's talk about him. Everyone's on everybody's mind. Kenneth Gainwell. I tell you what, man. I was being a little facetious, obviously, but the versatility that Kenneth Gainwell continues to bring to the Steelers offense. I saw him today working with the running backs. You see him working with wide receivers. You see him going out in the slot in motion on the outside. You see him bringing in tight, taking handoffs as well. You could be a kick returner, I imagine, as well once the regular season opens. He made a couple of great catches in the 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 team periods as well. He's an excellent route runner. I think I said something very similar to this before. I don't anticipate he's going to be some big breakout yardage getter for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I think he is going to be one of the most efficient, like third down backs, change of pace backs, and his pass catching and running ability is a great combination for someone who's going to be third on your depth chart. And so I just saw another great day from him. Other one, Max Hurlman. It's hard not to fall in love with the guy. It's hard not to, I heard good old Mark Caboli asking a lot of people after practice if they could do backflips like Max Hurlman. It was an overwhelming no from a lot of players on the field. But the athleticism, the explosiveness, the ability to make yourself noticeable in individual drills and team drills and all sorts of situations. Max Hurlman has let it be known that he is not going away quietly, and every single day there continues to be another play, another handful of plays where everyone is kind of staring at Max Hurlman and wondering, like, how did this guy get here undrafted out of Colgate and Notre Dame,
Look, Max Hurlman is the best guy that's probably not going to make the roster in Pittsburgh. And it's a significant gap between whoever number 2 is. That's how good he's looked. Kenneth Gainwell's, look, I've been saying it since February that I guess he wasn't a Steeler in February, since April, okay, that Kenneth Gainwell is going to be a good piece of the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, and everybody should be very excited about it. I'm super excited for what Kenneth Gainwell brings. Max Hurlman, man, to me, like 1 to 10 shot that guy actually makes the roster. Like, actually, better question here. In your eyes, like, what does he have to do? Like, what else do you possibly have to do besides have a good day every single day at training camp to make the roster?
Here's the tough thing. I don't think any of it at this point is about what he does on the field every day. I think he could go out against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, put up 200 yards, all-purpose yards. I think he could do the same thing. He genuinely might, and that's not even me being a little bit funny. I think he could do something ridiculous against the Bucs, and then the final preseason game. I think it doesn't matter. I just think he could be the best player ever. There's not a spot for him on the 53-man roster unless there's an injury or something like that, which is just disappointing, because I agree with you 100%, Noah. This guy is talented, and he is not, your typical UDFA practice squad player. I'm not sure the ceiling that exists for Max Hurlman, but it's just, it's not the Cheddar Bob stuff we were talking about earlier. Like, the impact seems like he could be a little bit more real on the field. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't think it's anything he can do to earn it. I think he has to, an opportunity outside of him, outside of anyone else's performance is what's going to open the door for a 53-man roster spot for Max Hurlman. Unfortunately,
man, dude, I would love Max Hurlman on this roster. Put him as a punt returner, see what he could do. And when he breaks one for 85, he just becomes a hero. You know what I mean? A Colgate Patriot League hero. And that's what I want. That's what I want. My winner of the day, oh man, Roman had a really nice catch, and I thought looked really good. But my winner of the day is an easy one. A guy that in Jacksonville solidified that he is wide receiver 4 at bare minimum, and then continues to do it because the dude's a stud. He's the best wide receiver outside of DK Metcalf at training camp. He's been like that since day 1 of training camp. And at some point, somebody has to acknowledge, whether you agree with it or not, everyone just has to admit it and go, Scotty Miller's the second best wide receiver on this football team. And that's not okay. It's not what you want, but it's what it is. It's what it is. Scotty Miller again had a great day. They did 2-minute drill. You want to know who pretty much had the whole 2-minute drill? Who caught pretty much every pass? You were standing there. Scotty Miller, number 13. Once again, the dude does it all. I mean, to me, Scotty Miller is a winner every day. Today, he was a big winner.
Yes, he absolutely was. I'm not, it doesn't make me feel great agreeing with you about this, because I don't love how consistently Scotty Miller has looked like the best wide receiver outside of DK Metcalf.
It's a tough reality.
Yeah, it's a very tough
Scotty Miller, dude. Dude's a stud. You know what I mean? Dude, if we removed biases of the NFL, Scotty Miller's a starting wide receiver in Pittsburgh this year, and we're just heading into the season.
Yeah, and it's been consistent too. It's been since since March, or April when OTA started, whatever it was. Like, he's been putting in that work, and he's been on a consistent sort of upward trajectory here. So you can't deny it, but it's just, we talk about how the ceiling of the Steelers offense, and to think about putting that piece as the number 2 wide receiving option, and then being like, this is a Super Bowl team possibly, right? Those two things feel very incongruous,
I agree. I'm excited to close out tomorrow and come up with like the big giant winner of training camp. And I'm not going to lie to you. There's a strong chance my answer is Scotty Miller. All he's got to do is close it out with another bang. But there's a strong chance that my answer is Scotty Miller. Shout out to Scotty Miller, man. The dude's having a great day. Also, his kid is if you've been at training camp, you've seen how adorable his child is, running around with a big t-shirt with Scotty Miller's face on it, which is like just awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Big fan of the Millers, hope they're doing well. And he's been balling, man. He's been balling. All right. With that said, that's everything on our agenda. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side of it, we're going to start answering your guys' questions. We'll be right back.
Pittsburgh, this one's for you. From the voices behind All Steelers Talk comes black and gold apparel, your go-to for bold, fan-driven merch that reps the city, the Steelers, and everything in between. Whether you bleed black and gold or just love that Pittsburgh grit, we've got something for you. It's more than a podcast. It's a community. And thanks to your support, we're proud to bring the passion from our mics to your closets. Gear up, stand out, and show the world what real fans look like. Shop now at blackandgoldapparel.myshopify.com.
Alrighty, shout out to our members. Shout out to our super chatters. Shout out to St. Vincent College, man, for feeding us for 14 hearty days up here and having a good time. I'm excited to not eat Millie's ice cream, dude, for like at least 24, 48 hours, something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm certainly not.
Take a couple of days. My body's like half cookie dough. You know what I mean? And then today they went the cookie dough ice cream with, for those of you who don't know, who haven't heard yet, every day they feed us up here twice a day. Shout out. It's incredible. Mr. Rooney, love you, man. St. Vincent College staff, salute. Shout out. But they have a whole Millie's ice cream bar every day, all day long. And today they had cookie dough ice cream, and next to it was peanut butter cookie dough chunks. And I just, you know what I mean? That's not what you should be eating at 11:45 in the morning. It's just not. But it's what went in my body. And I'm very grateful for it. Very grateful for it. Cody Silva here. My condolences to Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Etienne. Thomas get riggedy wrecked by Juan Thornhill, and Etienne, who got body slammed to China by Peyton Wilson. What was your better moment of the preseason here? Was it Juan Thornhill almost killing a man, or was it Peyton Wilson, who talks more smack than anybody on the Pittsburgh Steelers by far, picking Travis Etienne up and just straight throwing him to the ground for no reason in a preseason game?
I mean, it's like asking a mother to pick between her two favorite daughters. I mean, both plays were incredible. For me, the Juan Thornhill, you know, I expect Peyton Wilson to be a dog, right? And I expect him to be a physically overpowering linebacker in one-on-one situations, as well as a very quick and speedy cover linebacker when the situation calls for it. Juan Thornhill is I've loved what I've heard from him so far. I've loved what I've seen on the field from him so far, but he's a fairly new arrival relative to Peyton Wilson. And so for me to see him just lay the boom like that kind of gave me some Ryan Clark vibes, kind of gave me some vibes of this hard-hitting smash mouth defense, which Juan Thornhill has said, you know, in the times that we've spoken to him, this is what we want this identity of the defense to kind of push towards. And that's why we think we can be so dominant and so good. So he certainly walked the walk there, and to see him, you know, how making it out healthy, looking strong as ever, and laying the boomstick, gotta love to see it from Juan Thornhill.
This is a tough one for me because Peyton Wilson's hilarious in my eyes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, good old hometown Southern Christian boy, super nice guy, talks more smack than anybody in the world, and will throw you down and not get, like, you know what I mean? Like, he threw Travis Etienne down, hoping Travis Etienne got up and got in his face. You know what I mean? That's who Peyton Wilson is. And I love that. But I agree with you. There's nothing crazier in an NFL game than watching a hospital ball get thrown and you going, oh God, oh no, oh gosh, no. And then Juan Thornhill barely not murdering a man. So it's crazy.
Trevor Lawrence, like, if I was a Jaguars fan, I think I would have probably given up my hope on the season going well after that pass. Like, for the first drive of the game, you're out there just leaving your best wide receiver out to dry like that. I'd be terrified.
Dude, that's his specialty, but we're not a Jaguars podcast. So shout out to Travis. Possibly. I mean, remember, dude, Pittsburgh Steelers they wanted him. They wanted him, according to, damn, I forget his name. Shout out. Hope he's doing well. Richard Hunt, what would get it? What would get Cam there financially? $3 to $5 million. So this year he's making about $21 million. I do think it's about $5 million. I think about $5 million is what Cam's gonna need to get somewhere close. 5 to 7, I'd say, in that ballpark. You feel differently? You feel the same? What's your thoughts?
3 to 5 felt, I guess, kind of too little to me. I would expect it to be, if he is willing to miss regular season games and has been holding in, I think the separation has got to be greater than 5 million. I think it's probably 7 to 10 is what I would guess. Again, if you're willing to, maybe take a couple of weeks off, maybe miss a regular season game, you better be asking for a lot more money or something like that. I hope it's not like a $700K difference or something like that.
I agree. It's definitely a significant amount of money. I would say 5 is where that conversation starts. get him halfway, get him somewhere in the top 15, and then, you kind of go from there. Cody Silva, Nichols look great, needs a roster spot, pro or corner. Oh, Lou Nichols. So here's my thought on Lou Nichols. Okay. Lou Nichols is good. I got to see him with a higher team. You know what I mean? I got to see him play some second team before I see him, making a roster spot, because he did look like the best of the group. I would say Trey Sermon also looked pretty good out of the running backs. But that second team defensive line was atrocious, man. Was atrocious. It was, again, the first team was great. Second team, again, I could still picture 71 being thrown backwards into Caleb Johnson. And I'm just going, what is this guy? Like, what are we even doing here? How do you expect anything from this guy? You know what I mean? And you don't want Spencer Anderson out there. Not saying that the fourth string was better, but they had significantly less to block, I would say. So I'd like to see him get a higher opportunity. I do think he's surpassed Evan Hall for sure, and I think he's been reliable. Fun fact about Lou Nichols here is that in his one full year of college football, he led the country in rushing yards and touchdowns. So the guy, when given an opportunity, has made the most of it.
Do you think he gets any greater opportunities, any expanded reps over the next couple of weeks? I don't see it personally.
No, I don't. I don't think he does. I think the Steelers' running back room is pretty made up, and at this point, he's fighting for practice squad spot. But I just think that's, again, the politics of the NFL, which we've talked about a lot this summer. But that's what happens when you have a deep roster and there's not a lot of room for wiggle room. ND Joe, is Cam feeling pressure of training his replacements and is reluctant to do so, like the Ben and Mason rift, or sees the light at the end of the tunnel of his career and is trying for a money grab? I think that the money thing is more significant. I don't think Cam has any issue training Derek Harmon and Hawaii Black. I also think that Cam's better than anybody on the defensive line in Pittsburgh, and it's not close. So I don't think he's worried about that. I truly think that it's hey, I want to finish my career being paid what I'm worth, and I'm not being paid what I'm worth, which, again, you can have your thoughts on if he should or if he should not. But in this situation, I think it's more he truly feels disrespected in the situation and wants to change that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if he had a huge issue with training his replacements, to use ND Joe's phrasing here, I don't think the best play to sort of get what you want out of that is to hold in. If you feel like you're basically training your successor and you're going to be replaced anyways, you're kind of expediting the process if you're then going to force the Steelers' hand into a contract renegotiation that might not go in your favor. It might just push them directly into those successors' hands and might expedite their timeline on that. I don't think there is an issue. Cam's a great locker room guy. I don't want to get into any sort of speculation about the character that is Cam Heyward, because this man is a Steelers legend already, through and through. And so I don't think there's anything to do with the locker room issues, interpersonal issues, or anything like that with Cam Heyward, or I would be shocked if that's what it was. I think this is very much this summer, maybe 2025 in the last year, has just totally changed how important money is and how important your relative earning compared to the rest of the NFL is to these players, because that is this one thing in common with DK Metcalf, TJ Watt, Chris Boswell, Cam Heyward. They've all felt or feel that they were not being compensated fairly relative to their performance across the NFL. And I think that is where I completely agree with them.
Yeah. I think that the way this is going about is strange, but I also think that Cam wanting more money is justified, just the way that you did it, which I will say that him saying that last year he told the team, look, I'm going to have an all-pro year, then I'm going to come back to you guys, changes a little bit of my mind, because there goes, oh, well, he kind of gave you a heads up, he told you what he was going to do. The way that his agent went about when to break the news and when to become a distraction is that's where it went south in my head. But I do like, I think it's more of like the timeline than it is anything else, but it has nothing to do with Cam's the best locker room guy you could have, So I'm not super worried about that. It's Juju. Does Cam holdout impact us possibly trading for a wide receiver? No, it does not. I think the Steelers are actively, keeping their board open, but I don't think that the Steelers are actively pursuing a wide receiver right now. But Cam has nothing to do with a wide receiver unless you feel different.
No. I think the only hold up obstacle hindrance to going out and getting another wide receiver is I think they watched Roman Wilson climb the ladder and catch that ball on Saturday, and they were like, he might be our guy. I genuinely think that was more the conversation and an extension of, giving Calvin Austin a lot of runway and Roman Wilson a lot of runway this offseason and summer. I think that is still the holdup in bringing another wide receiver, is they just feel like they're about to break through in some very legitimate and huge way. And I think it has nothing to do with other contractual negotiations or salary cap constraints or anything like that. I think it is strictly a decision about personnel.
I agree. I don't think that the Steelers have any connection there when it comes to wide receivers and Cam Heyward. Bernard Pony, Andrew Phil Pony said Mason is better than Rodgers. Agree.
No.
I'll say this, man. I respect Pony for who he is, what he does, but Pony is not out here making. Pony's got a great following, and you can learn a lot about how to gain a following from Andrew Phil Pony, but. Like, you can't take his takes seriously. You can't. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the answer is Aaron Rodgers threw a football today, threw two of them. Okay. One of them was on the sideline. You know the exact two I'm talking about. One of them was on the sideline to DK Metcalf, beautifully placed between Joey Porter Jr. and I think it was Deshaun Elliott. Gorgeous. Beautifully placed. And then the second one went over a 6'3" inside linebacker, 20 yards down the field, and then perfectly dropped right into 5'8" Scotty Miller's hands. Perfectly. Nobody does that. Nobody could do that. Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, man. And I, respect to Mason Rudolph. He has definitely looked like a good quarterback out here. But like Aaron Rodgers is one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play, and still very much so has the juice. And like it's just
wild.
It's wild.
It's wild. Like I don't even have something funny to say about that, because it's just not true, and it's not close to true. And like, I like Mason Rudolph's game. I think
sure.
he took a very concrete step forward from 2023 to now. Like, this is a different player than the Steelers drafted in the third round of 2018 or whatever it was. This guy is a legitimate backup quarterback, but I emphasize legitimate backup quarterback. That means he can come in and probably play 4, 5, 6 games, and you think you can have a winning record with him, but this guy is not a 17-game starter. Even if he is younger, in the prime physically of his career, Aaron Rodgers is the superior quarterback. It's still not even quite close. And I would just challenge anyone to, if you feel differently, you should come out tomorrow and watch. And I just promise you'll change your mind.
That's the biggest thing here, is I feel like it's really hard to judge if Mason Rudolph is better than Aaron Rodgers if you haven't seen Aaron Rodgers throw a football with the Pittsburgh Steelers in person. You know what I'm saying? Scotty Miller is 5'8". Maybe, dude. Like, he might be 5. I'm 5'8". I look down to Scotty Miller. Just, But Calvin Austin's listed at 5'10", dude, and he, I could stand on his shoulders pretty much. Shout out to Calvin. Shout out to Scotty Miller, man. Both great wide receivers. Chris, the Steelers have paid players who accept new deals. The problem I have is when you have a deal but refuse to honor your promise to fulfill it. Okay, so I agree with this, and I think everybody has their own opinion on this situation. Does him saying that the Steelers asked him for a pay cut last year and that he told them next year he's coming after a great year to ask for more money change anything in your mind?
Yes. Overwhelmingly, yes. I guess I have a fundamental disagreement with the premise of Chris's argument here. I think contracts are set up to be renegotiated both in the NFL and business and like in all sorts of business sense. Like contracts get renegotiated all the time. I worked in theater before I worked in this. We would renegotiate our rent with the theaters that we did shows in every 6 months, to get better deals. So like I'm not shocked by someone who has time left on a deal coming back to restructure, to renegotiate. That aside, the fact that Cam Heyward has put it out there, which is a beautiful, beautiful little piece in terms of his like media plan or his agent's media plan, to put out that part about how, I said if I had a great year and you're going to make me take this pay cut, I'm going to come back and ask for more money. Like he basically let it be known that there was a vocal clause last year that he wanted to revisit this if things went his way. And the Steelers just didn't take it at face value. It wasn't written into the contract, but I mean, it clearly was understood between both sides that if Cam had a great 2024, which he did by all accounts, he was going to come back to the table and talk about this. And I think the Steelers just really thought that they would call his bluff and he wouldn't do it. And now here we are. But the inclusion of him saying that he had made it known a year prior that he would want to revisit this if things went his way, it feels important.
I agree. I think that him kind of dropping that nugget gives us his side of the situation. And that's something we didn't have up until today. And because of that, I think it does change. Now, again, do I think that the whole timing of this is wild? Yes. Yeah. That does not change. But do I think that I sympathize with Cam, knowing he started this in February, tried to keep it very under wraps, and even participated at the beginning of training camp and didn't get what he wants? Yeah, I think that there's a part of me that says, okay, sounds good. It's Juju. Is Slay at risk of missing week 1? I don't think so. We'll have to see in the coming days, but things didn't look like it. He rolled it, but he stayed on the field, not in practice, but on the bench hanging out the whole time. He didn't go up to like get x-rays or anything. I'm sure that he did afterwards, but I'm looking at it more of a rolled ankle. Might take, the next week or two, but I don't think he's at risk of missing week 1.
No, and I didn't expect to see him much in, the next 2 preseason games anyways, so I don't think it really changes much in terms of the workload that he's going to undertake over that time. So, yeah, I'm not worried about it at all. I saw him like walking around, like not like running around doing drills afterwards, but I saw him at least putting weight on his foot that he appeared to roll in practice today. So I don't feel too concerned.
Jordan, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you regret passing on Shedeur Sanders? The boy had a game, dude. He looked shedonkulous. What's your thoughts on Shedeur here? I'll be honest. Mine's a 1. I think he looked great, no doubt about it. I think come next year, he'll look like nothing compared to. I think the Browns might have are going to be the team that in a year from now have a really difficult decision, and knowing the Browns are going to roll with Shedeur because, they're just going to do it. And the Steelers are going to end up with like Lenore Sellers, and life's going to be real good in Pittsburgh while it's maybe not that good in Cleveland.
Yeah. A 1 feels high. Maybe too high. I don't think the Steelers are any worse off by passing on Shedeur Sanders. And I say this as someone who was excited about his prospects coming into the NFL and about the possibility of him being selected by the Steelers. So I say this as someone who has enjoyed a lot of Shedeur Sanders' game coming out of the NCAA, but I got to give it a 0. Like having any other rookie in the organization who has shown flashes, like I think Will Howard meets that requirement and that description as well. You basically got the same thing. I won't call Shedeur the next franchise QB in Cleveland because he had a strong preseason game. He's now the fourth
franchise quarterback in Cleveland.
That's true, because you only have to do it for like 3 weeks and then you get to move on to your next job.
Franchise quarterback.
But yeah, I just think he's 4th on the depth chart for a reason. I think it's because he is a very involved project before he becomes a true starting NFL quarterback. So for all those reasons, no regret. I'll go 0 out of 10. Sorry, Jordan.
No, I hear you for sure. Rocky Mountain oyster salad. I'm not 100% on what this is, so I'm not going to put this comment out here, but we appreciate the contribution for sure. I just, I
I don't know what that acronym
Me
means.
neither. And then because of that, like, look at Rocky Mountain. It could be something not bad. And if that's the case, hilarious. But, I know, family friendly show. Gotta keep our risks low, but appreciate you as always. Danny here. How many starters do you expect to see in the second preseason game? I would say almost zero.
Yeah.
Week 3 is like the dress rehearsal. You'll see some guys, but I don't think you'll see much of the off. I don't think you'll see much of the offensive line at all. I think you'll see the same less than the amount of starters that you saw in week 1 against Jacksonville. That's my guess.
And that was 9 starters, right?
Yeah, I'd say maybe
Something
6. Like I'd say you're probably going to see Juan Thornhill.
Mm-hmm.
That might be it. That might be Peyton Wilson. I think will play a series. Derek Harmon will play. That might be it.
Derek Harmon will play for
That might
sure.
be it.
Yeah, I don't want to see any starting offensive lineman play. I'm good on seeing Broderick Jones play. I'm good on seeing Troy Fautanu play. I guess did you say Roman already? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess if we're counting Roman, I expect Roman to play.
I expect to see him, but yeah, besides that, I expect to see just like a ton of Skylar Thompson again, and stuff like that. I
agree. A lot of Skylar Thompson. Shout out Skylar Thompson, which Maddie's got a good question here about our boy Skylar Thompson. Hot take. People are overhyping Skylar, and we're going to end up trading him for picks. We drafted Will for a reason. So good hot take. I don't think they're going to end up trading him. I just think he ends up on the practice squad. He's like a good practice squad guy to have. Easy veteran, could manipulate guys like Lamar Jackson with his athleticism. I just think he's, quality vet who's got playoff experience, and to keep him on the practice squad as your 4th QB, I think is pretty good. That being said, he throws for 300 yards 2 more times. I made the argument. I'm going to make it again. I think that he makes the roster. You know what I mean? I know people don't want to hear it, but I think that's what happens.
I think best case scenario is this hot take turns into some sort of truth here from Maddie in that, I don't see right now, even after that great performance from Skylar Thompson, another franchise giving up any sort of asset, a draft capital, a late round draft pick, whatever, put in the example you want. I don't see another team parting with that to bring in Skylar Thompson because he wouldn't come in and be anything more than the number 3, maybe the number 2 one in a really dire situation. But aside from that, I like Skylar. I'll keep reiterating it. I've loved a lot of what I've seen him do over the past couple. Thank you, Noah. And I think he's going to wind up on the practice squad. And really, the Steelers are going to have to hope that he does get to there. I think the most likely outcome this season is, people are impressed with his preseason performance. He goes to the practice squad, and if injuries occur throughout the NFL, he's probably going to get, signed to an active roster because of that. So, and honestly, that's a great situation for the Steelers, to bring in a journeyman quarterback and to have him impress that much. I would consider it a win. But yeah, I don't think a trade's on the table. I'm sorry, Maddie.
I agree. Broderick Wallace here. Do you view a contract restructure different from a new contract? Cam did the latter last season. Yes and no. Kind of just depends on. Now, I don't know. Do you? I don't think I do. I think I view them both kind of the same. You're both looking for a new situation, a new amount of money. And, to me, like in the NFL, they're almost hand in hand. I don't know if I do. Do you?
I don't. It's honestly, it's a really tough question from Broderick. Like, I don't think it's that different. I think whatever, either restructuring or in a new contract. Did you just see what RDS stands for? Yeah, I did too. I just think if there's new terms agreed upon at some point, whether it's, there's X amount of time left in the deal or it's expiring, I just think it's pretty much all the same. And there's just it's all a gross negotiation period and process anyways. So yeah, they're pretty much the same in my eyes, I think. But I understand the difference being that there is time remaining on the contract when you're restructuring compared to signing a brand new one.
Yeah, Broderick clarified here. I meant the former. Sorry. Yeah. Look at I think with Cam's deal right now, it's not necessarily I want to add anything or I just want more money. You know what I mean? Which I like. To me, I understand it. You know,
Mhm.
I kind of wish that they had longer negotiations last year of like, hey, you know, if this happens, we'll do this or this or this. But again, like I
Yeah,
I sympathize with both sides. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where we're at. Is I
definitely,
sympathize with both sides.
definitely.
Rogers derangement syndrome, which is definitely not what it means, but it's hilarious. It's hilarious. And it's, you know, I'm not gonna say it's true or not, but shout out Pony, man. Shout out 93.7 The Fan. Good people. I was on there the other day, my phone. Apparently they didn't hear a word I was saying. Josh Roundtree was at some point was like, all right, we're gonna end this because I can't hear no at all. I was like, all right, guys, see you later.
I
Shout out Latrobe, man. Shout out Latrobe. No, is your hair naturally curly? Do you have a perm? Nah, dude. This is all I'm blessed and cursed at the same time. It's a beautiful time. It's a beautiful
I thought you were gonna say I get this thing permed 4 times a year, and I was
four
gonna
times a year.
lose it.
Every 3 months I go to the barber and I say, yo, toss it on there. And my girl Katie down at 10th Ward Barbershop hooks me up for sure. Street corn mayo and paprika, little chard. Does anybody know the amount Cam is asking for? Can the Cap still afford a wide receiver too if he gets the bag? Yeah, Cam's contract's not gonna like. The Steelers have like $32 million in cap space, so they're totally fine in cap money. They want to roll a lot of that over. That's the thing is people are like spend it. No, they want to roll it over so that they have more money to spend next offseason because they feel pretty good about their team right now. I would imagine Cam gets about 5. It doesn't impact the wide receiver 2 almost at all.
Yeah, it shouldn't. They'd still have plenty of cap space to bring in someone, even if they got down to like, let's call it, I don't know, 18, 19, 20 million dollars in salary cap space, or even if they had a little bit less, they could still go out and bring in all these guys that we've talked about them possibly targeting.
I agree. Maddie here. What's a good day for the fantasy football draft? You guys pick it. Let us know. Do it at night. That would be the one thing I ask. Do it like after like 6 p.m. would be unless you feel differently. But to me, it's
No.
yeah, you do it at 2 p.m. There's a good chance I'm not there. There's a good chance.
100% chance I'm not.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
All right, keeping it trucking here. Ernie Jones, anything on the Steelers getting Terry McLaurin? No update for now. I actually did a little bit of digging over the weekend. I was bored, had a long drive, made some phone calls. My wife loves when I'm talking sports on the phone next to her. Loves it, dude. In other words, she hates it so much. But I didn't hear anything. They're not, and I was digging into that. We're going to talk Tyreek Hill here in a second, like just seeing where they're at. They're not doing much of anything right now. They're feeling pretty comfortable about where they're at. Just to kind of give you just a little rundown of things. Mikey Brown, what do you think about Tyreek Hill rumors? And do you think the Steelers have called about him? So I don't know if they've just made a preliminary, like, hey, what's going on? What's the price tag? Or if it's like, hey, let's do a little bit more digging. But I have not heard that the Steelers are actively pursuing a Tyreek Hill. You think he'd end up in Pittsburgh?
No. I don't. My value. No, I don't think he's going to end up here. I do think it's becoming more and more likely that he is going to be traded. It seems like he in Miami, and it seems like maybe Miami and a lot of their big contracted players recently have been having sort of falling out, or they're ready to move on for whatever reason. But I think Tyreek Hill is probably going to get moved. Haven't heard the Steelers being connected to him, and would prefer that stays that way.
Yeah. Justin here. The whole idea of accepting a reduction in salary without a reduction in duties or expectations of performance, that's ridiculous. Just pay Cam and Boz. You're not wrong. You know, the notion here is pretty straightforward. If you ask somebody to do the same thing and pay them less, that's not cool, man. That's not that's I asked Jacob to do more and I pay him less all the time. I'm like, hey, dude, I'm actually going to take all of your money now.
I pay Noah to work for him.
Yeah, it's actually that's it. He was like, hey, just, you know, if possible, that would be that. I was like, I guess if you hardball me here, but I agree with this. And I think everybody else should. Now, does that factor in age and everything? No, and that's a conversation obviously that has to be involved in this. This is a sport where physical activity is there and people diminish, and you have to pay with the value the person is, and that value gets lower and lower the older they get. But at the same time, I don't think Cam is worth $16 million a year. I think he is definitely worth more than that.
Definitely.
Mystic Gaming, can we give Cam his second year money on this year, like make it a 1-year deal since we are all going all in and we could still roll over, or am I wrong? You could technically like cut the contract, make it a new one. I don't think that's what he wants. I think he wants another 2 years on his deal. I think at the end of the day, they're just going to hand him $5 million and everything's going to be fine, or $7 million and everything's going to be fine. Do I think that he's worth it? Yes. Do I think it's going to cause problems? Yes. I don't think it hurts anything long term. But that's the thing, is if you're up in this year, you're up in next year too. You know what I mean? You're not,
Right.
He's not saying, oh, this year I'll pay for a lot of money. Next year I won't pay for any money. I think that's where it goes wrong.
Right.
Chris, have any reporters asked Tomlin, and do you know what his response was? Yeah, I was there when people asked him. He just said he's not worried about it. Typical Tomlin response. Everything's fine. Cam's a leader. The basics. Here's a good one. We'll finish off with these two here. Who's your surprise cut candidate for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Hit me with it.
Oh, man. Oh, Robert Woods is not a surprise cut candidate, but he's certainly on there. Surprise cut candidate. Is Beanie Bishop a surprise cut candidate? Because
yes,
for
sure.
And let's go with him, because I tell you what, I just don't think he's going to make the team.
Me too.
And I certainly, when we were talking about the game against Jacksonville earlier, I was kind of split on Beanie's performance. He made, I think, 5 tackles, was involved in some plays, but also looked really, really weak in coverage sometimes, and looked really out of place and sort of out of position oftentimes. So I just don't think he's going to be on this team. And I heard, I was one of the people talking to Terrell Austin today. He complimented guys like James Pierre and sort of talked about how they are fighting for these spots. He didn't downplay Beanie Bishop or anything like that, but it's just, it's hard for me to see, with Brandon Echols being able to show some versatility to play the slot and on the outside as well. I think it's kind of getting tougher and tougher for me to see Beanie on the 53-man roster. I don't know, I could easily be wrong, but he seems to be one of those surprising cut candidates for me.
He's, to be honest, that was my answer, was Beanie Bishop.
Hard to steal it.
I think he's on the outside looking in right now. I think they keep 6 corners, and I think Corey Trice is going to be the 6th, and Brandon Echols playing on the inside today, like you said. That, to me, a major sign that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going away from Beanie. He would be the guy that I think. I'll answer these two real quick. God of Thunder, what was up with Caleb Johnson Saturday? Didn't look very good. The offensive line, trash. Atrocious. And do I think Caleb has some growth ahead of him? For sure. But I want to see him behind a good offensive line, because that backup offensive line was so bad. It was brutal. And the working man salad here. How many running backs do you think they keep this season? I'm saying 3. I think they keep Kenneth Gainwell, Caleb Johnson, Jalen Warren. You see a different number?
I think they're going to go 4. And I do see Trey Sermon making this team right now.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, you know what? I would be great with them going with 3 if that meant someone like a Max Hurlman makes the squad, right? And you can list him as like your 6th wide receiver or something like that, but he's going to be playing basically just like a slash position. So I'd be fine with that. As long as Gainwell, Jalen Warren, and Caleb Johnson are my top 3 running backs, I'm not going to lose sleep over not keeping a 4th or keeping a 4th in Trey Sermon. But yeah, I think 4, just because of injury concerns, might be what they go with there. But I love the call there from you.
I like the call from you. 4 on that one. That's I think that's a hot take, and I kind of like it. Shout out Trey Sermon. I'm a Trey Sermon fan for sure. All right, guys. With that said, we're heading out of here. Thank you guys so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, Find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We got one more day here at St. Vincent College. I am so excited for it, but at the same time, so excited to be back in studio and bringing you guys some All Steelers talk every single day on our normal scheduled program. With that said, we'll be back. Enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.